for the important decisions that are going to be made, like the restore money that's going to come forth. We thank you for favor with that judge, and that we're going to get the 8 counties that were affected the most are going to get a tremendous settlement that we can use to bring Walden County forth in environment and economics. And we ask you, Lord, to be with us as we decide important things today. And in all these things we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call this meeting to order. Thank you all for showing up this morning and participating in this Board of County Commissioners meeting. Mr. Jones, we have any guests we need to recognize? Everybody out there is our guest. We recognize you all. Yes. Okay. Additions and deletions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under the consent agenda, we have 2 additions. Okay, now we go.
Can't hear you.
Let's try now. Under the consent agenda, we have 2 additions we'd like you to consider, both regarding change orders at the EOC. Both are deduct change orders. The first would be for $5,298.64. We are asking to increase the number of days by 7. The second, which would be item 5, would be a deduct change order for $16,120.70 for the purchase of ceiling tiles. That'll be removed from the contractor's contract, but we will direct purchase those ceiling tiles and be able to save about $3,000. So just ask you to add those to the consent agenda for approval.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other comment? Any public comment on that? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And I'll get the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Any comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment with regards to the agenda items? Seeing none, okay. Consent agenda.
Yeah, I have a couple questions on the EAL.
Okay, let's take the EAL off the consent agenda for discussion.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, motion to approve with taking the EALs off for discussion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other comment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, let's talk about the EALs.
Okay, yeah. Is my mic on? Yeah, I have a question on the EAL dated January 15th. There is a line item under general fund for educational management consultant, and it's $1,500. Can y'all, what is that?
Commissioner, that's the company that employs the person that's doing the negotiations for us with the firefighters. That's
Okay.
That's
Okay.
its fee. Yes.
Okay, and also too, under the Mossy Head Industrial Park, it looks like we've purchased a dump truck out of that account with 3 payments of $7,500 each.
Rentals, we've had some heavy-duty rental off-road equipment to work on the infrastructure, and that would be one of those rental pieces.
So we bought it,
No, ma'am.
we purchased it, we're renting it.
We're just renting, right? Yeah.
We're renting a dump truck to
But
do Mossy Head.
But it's an off-road vehicle.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's coming out of the Mossy Head Industrial Park account. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay.
And I usually get these answered, but I didn't ran into overtime, so I didn't get them answered. So I figured I'd bring them up today.
Okay, so you're going to make a motion to approve those 2 items?
Yes, motion to approve.
Motion to approve the EAL.
The
right?
EAL.
The EALs are already been approved minus that, so now we're
okay.
taking action on those
Yeah.
2 items.
Motion to approve those 2 items.
Second.
So a motion and a second. Any further comment? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first item we're asking you to consider is regarding a 1.9 acre tract of property at 153 New Elba Drive. This property that the DOT intends to utilize as stormwater facility for the expansion of US 98. In order for us to take any action to convey it to them, we must declare it surplus. So the first action we're asking is that we find this property as surplus, that we can convey it to DOT if we so choose.
Okay.
Our staff has looked at it, and it doesn't provide any value to us from stormwater or any of those aspects which we would typically review a property for before we would declare it surplus.
I have a question. It's in your district, correct?
Yes.
I think so, yeah. Does it have any wetlands, and does it have any native preservation that would be required from? And
No,
the thing I'm concerned about is it's in the middle of a neighborhood, obviously. It's got houses around it. It's got a lot of trees on it. Once DOT goes in there, they're gonna cut everything down, and they're gonna build a retention pond. And it's gonna abut single-family residential. That's the only problem I have with it.
Well, I have a lot of issues in that area with stormwater and that sort of thing, so I think it will actually, let's see, Buddy and I were talking about it, I believe it will actually help us because we can tie into it and help some of that stormwater.
Could we ask them, I don't know if we could write this in the agreement, could we ask them to leave a buffer around the perimeter where it's adjacent to single-family houses?
We can certainly ask.
Yeah.
And,
Maybe a 10-foot buffer, leave the trees around there, just because I know what those things look like once they're denuded and they dig a big hole and they put up an ugly green fence or something.
yes.
But, we're hoping that I get a lot of
Yeah.
the stormwater issues.
Oh,
and flooding issues in
absolutely.
that area.
It's going to help, but, it's going to help, but
Help
it's also
us,
going to be not very pretty.
They can plant some pretty bushes, but we certainly ask.
Put up a fence.
Yeah.
They have to fence those things in
Yes, for
anyway.
children, have to fence them in.
But Commissioner, to answer your earlier question, there's no wetlands or any
Or any preservation.
yeah,
Okay.
preservation.
Motion to approve with the recommendation of a buffer.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries.
The next item is regarding the same parcel, and this may be where you want to make that condition on your motion as well. DOT came to us and said they need that parcel for this project. They offered us $172,700. We turned Stan, the negotiator, onto him, and he negotiated a price of $231,673. So he wore them out pretty good. In fact, one of the guys said to him, "These things aren't negotiable." They obviously haven't dealt with him. And,
Our resident bulldog.
so, and also in part of this project is transferring some county right-of-way at a couple of locations to the state so they can utilize it for their expansion of their project. But this would accept their offer of $231,673 for the purchase of this 1.9 acres. And if you would like the contingency to leave a buffer where possible, that would be an appropriate part of the motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
And that motion includes that, what, a 10-foot tree buffer?
We're going to ask,
Yeah.
10-foot tree, buffer.
Any public comment on it? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next item, just some direction from the board. As you may be well aware that the legislation that created the Florida Enterprise Zones sunsets at the end of this year. We've gotten some correspondence from Representative Gates asking that if it's been good for our community and particularly the Mossy Head Zone, which is the county's enterprise zone that encompasses the Mossy Head Industrial Park, to provide them with some information of successes we've seen. We've put together a packet of information. We'd like to move forward with your support to support the continuing of those enterprise zones. So what we would ask is if you'd like us to move that forward and get it to the appropriate people, you can either do it by vote or just acknowledgement that, we've provided you the information we'd like to send to them.
And is this
Yes, ma'am.
I want to commend staff for this. It's fabulous.
Well, it was kind of a trial run of some things we want to do moving forward. Lou's worked very hard on it and utilizing our printing capabilities to get it put out. So we'll get the format mastered a little bit, and we'll be able to use it on a number of things. So that's what we'd like to provide to Representative Gates in response to his letter, but also to Kelly Horton and our legislative delegation that we have had success with the enterprise zone, and it has certainly helped our initiatives in Mossy Head.
And so has, correct me if I'm wrong, but so have Freeport and Defuniak as well. They have had very much success.
Yes.
So I very much support, moving this forward, because Walton County needs it. It's a tool we use, yeah.
Who's the Brigman family?
That's the truck sales center that's at the far west portion of the property. And you've each got a quote in there. If you don't like it, we'll change it.
I noticed that. No, that's fine. I was hoping that I was,
You said great things.
you said great things about the Brigman family. That's my mouth.
They could have put you with the baked goods place, which has been left out.
Yeah, the baked
The Busby thing, the Busby project, which is baked goods
I like
distribution.
that. Well, I like that. I like baked. Let's put it in there. No, that's good, yeah.
Motion to approve?
second.
A motion and a second. Any other comment? Any public comment? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, the next item is regarding the negotiations for the consulting firm for the South Walton Sports Complex. The review team ranked Lowe's and Associates as the top-ranked firm. So either one of two things. If you're comfortable with that, we would ask you to allow us to begin negotiations with them. However, if you would like to interview as a board this group or any of the other top-ranked groups, we'd be happy for you to do that as well. But the Lowe's and Associates was the review team's top selection. So absent this board wanting to hold interviews with the top one or two or three firms, we would recommend that we move forward to negotiate with Lowe's and Associates.
Who was on the review team?
Rick,
Myself, Melissa, Shane, and Brad.
Rick Wilson, Melissa Thompson, Shane Supple, and Brad Alford.
Yeah, I move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other comments?
And that's to move forward with negotiations with Lowe's? Okay.
Any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Could I ask a question? Where are we on the parcel in Miramar? Where are we?
We're getting closer.
Okay.
There's some issues there we're trying to resolve on what the utilities wanting to do and wanting us to do, and just make sure we all have an understanding of who's doing what moving forward.
Didn't they want us to pay for something that would be benefit to their property, but it wouldn't do us any good? I mean, wasn't it like $1 million or something?
It was.
I mean, I think-
it was more than we anticipated it being.
I think we need to bring that to a vote and just say either let's cut it loose or let's.
Okay.
Because I mean, there's no reason to spend our wheels on it. Because
Right.
I heard that it was, they wanted about $1 million to do some reparations or something, and that we wouldn't even own the property; we'd be just
Correct.
leasing it. So
Correct.
I would like to at least put it on the agenda for the next time, maybe to decide what we want to do with it.
Okay.
And seeing if there's, and also see if there's another viable piece.
Yeah, see if there's another viable piece.
Okay.
But
We'd be glad to do that.
in that area, yeah. Have we voted yet?
We're good to go?
Good. Next item is regarding a lease with Compass Builders. Compass Builders, Mr. Jack Huggins is the project manager and superintendent for the construction of the Children's Advocacy Center here in Defuniak. Anyway, he asked to use just a small part of the Gillis House for a construction office, so they wouldn't have to incur the cost of bringing out a construction trailer. Rick Wilson's worked with him, and we're good to go with it. They understand what we use the house for. So I think this is $1 a year lease or something, just to make sure we're stay within the parameters of what we're allowed to do. So we would recommend that we approve this and allow them to use that facility.
Can I make-
Yeah. What do we use the house for?
Record storage.
Okay, because it's got, it's got one foot in the grave and the other on a banana peel.
That's
I mean,
right.
It's not, it is not in good shape.
Right.
So,
Well, the only thing I would say too is if it's going to be a construction use, I guess there are surrounding neighbors. Just make sure they don't store equipment outside and create kind of a look that's not conducive to.
church across the street in a parking lot.
Yeah, and that would be my thing, is no outdoor storage of materials, and
I wouldn't
no
think
loud
that.
parties, no, things like that.
We've done some repairs to the house, put a new roof on it, done some repairs.
And that's one of those things we need to decide when we're through this, what are we going to do with that? I mean, are we going to keep it, 'cause
Is that a
is
historic?
it of any historic value?
I don't know, but we've got our records, it's full of our records right now, so
Yeah,
we
but
use it for that.
Later on the agenda, we're fixing to talk about maybe
Right.
clearing out records,
Right.
so,
We'll research that, Commissioner.
Hoping that it has a fire sprinkler in it. No.
Well, but it leaks when it rains, so that kind of offsets that.
I'm thinking that's a little tinderbox there, but maybe my records aren't in there. So
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve in a second.
with the conditions that they don't store a bunch of materials outside.
Motion to approve with the condition they don't store unsightly things outside.
Okay.
How about that?
We have a motion and a second. Any other comments or discussion on that? Any public comment? Mr. Miller, you're going to keep those people from having the parties, right?
Can I have a party there?
If you've been inside, you don't.
Hi, Art Miller. I'm on the construction committee and I'll make sure that
And bear with
everything
me.
is complied with.
I have people that come to the podium spell their last name, even though yours is an easy one.
All right,
Please spell your last name.
Miller. Thank you.
It's
I'll
kind
make
of a
sure
test
that
if you don't
everything you
need it.
said there'll be no tractors outside. There'll be no. I understand that roof was recently replaced. Is
It
that
was.
not? Okay, so
So
we'll
it really
have
doesn't
no
leak
leaks.
now, but it was.
So, all right, we'll take care of that.
No parties.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
And what a great segue into document management services.
Man, that was time. Wasn't that good?
Yeah, and there's no part of this that is roofing or anything else that would protect them. We did an RFP for digitizing our records and the retention of those records. Our proposal, best proposal we received back was from South Data. We had budgeted $250,000 this year for moving our storage to an electronic concept. These folks anticipate that it would take about $74,000 to take all of our small format documents electronically, but almost $1.9 million to do our large format. So our recommendation would be to engage South Data to begin this process and start with our small format documents. We said we'll clear up some space that we can have more space to put our large format, and whatever remaining funds are left out of the $250,000 budget, we began scanning the large format documents as well. So at least we'll get a handle on that. We should be able to, according to them, and I don't know how you look at a room and say it takes this much to scan all this, but that's what they do for a living, so we're going to trust them. So that'll get us moving in the right direction of getting our small formatted documents in a form that we could retrieve them electronically, and then begin the process of our large format documents. So that would be our recommendation, that we engage South Data to do those services.
This may be a question that y'all have already done, I hope so. I'm sure that we have some historical documents somewhere. It's secured? I mean, I remember going up in the cupula back when I was a mere child, and the beautiful records that were kept up there, are they somewhere where they're being protected?
The short answer is yes and no, Commissioner.
Yeah.
As you may recall, most of them have been scanned. The vast majority of them have been scanned, but many of them were damaged in the flood, and it was a flood back in the late 90s, mid-90s.
I was up since then. The books that are written with.
Oh, yeah, they're all stored up here, yeah.
Clerk Gillis's handwriting. It's the most beautiful
Why don't we give them to the
records.
Oh, no. They're actually part of, there's some of them that we use for title searches. I mean, they're still used.
I mean,
Oh,
yeah, but they're beautifully handwritten. And back in those days, men and women had beautiful handwritings. And, and it's a record of so-and-so stole a pig and he got 30 days. I mean, they're really interesting documents that we need to hang on to. So, and they're in good hands. I feel they're in good hands with Alex. That's all I wanted to make sure.
Most of them are in the safe upstairs.
Yeah.
Okay.
You need to sit down and read them. Yeah, motion to approve. Yeah,
One question, just a second on that motion, but the question is, do we have a list of all the locations where our documents are stored?
Everywhere.
Rick, could you get me that list? I'm just curious as to how many different spaces, how much money are we spending on document storage?
A lot.
Yeah,
A lot.
significant.
Way too much.
Do we have a,
You can get me those numbers.
excuse me,
We have a bank, the bank building uptown. Do we still have some behind the old Sears building that's now Aaron's? We have some there, some in the Gillis building. I mean, they're just
AAA storage units.
AAA storage units, yeah.
Ultimately, this project will help to reduce our need for those
Yes,
spaces.
that's what,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's two prongs. They have record retentions and they know how long you're supposed to keep what. And so as they filter through these things, those things that we have no need to keep any longer, they'll put in a separate pile and return to us that we can shred.
And then we can take them.
and I had a question, do we have a plan for what we're gonna move first? Or we're gonna start with what we're renting and then delete that and then come on down to what we own, kind of?
We'll have some conversation with them about what is the most feasible and economical way to do it, whether we do it by time or whether we go to the bank building and clear it out and then go to the storage places that we're paying rent on, clear those out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments? Any public comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners. The next item is regarding the local restore position coordinator. Each of you interviewed those and provided us a ranking from those interviews. From that, Bill Williams was the top-ranked candidate. In fact, he was the top candidate from each commissioner. So we would ask you to move that we begin the process of bringing Billy on as the Restore Act coordinator.
So moved to approve. Second?
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Comments?
Just a question. I know that there was discussion about full-time employee versus contract employee. Have we made that decision, or is that going to be part of the negotiation?
We anticipate him being a full-time employee, but we will
Okay.
make sure we keep you informed as how that moves forward.
Okay. And also, too, somebody asked me this question, which I thought was a very good question, is how long is this job going to last? And I really couldn't answer that question. And so, do y'all have any?
No.
When will we see BP money?
When I'm in the grave.
Exactly.
When I'm in
I
the
don't
grave.
think there's no way to know.
There-
Because there was a question about, okay, if we bring somebody on and nothing happens in 2 years and there's nothing for that person to do,
But that's the unfortunate part. We have to be ready, especially with the pot 2 and
Right.
3 money. If we're not ready, if we don't have a plan in place and we've done all and there's a lot of underground work before, then we lose out because the other states, yeah. So it's one of those things you got to pay for now and hopefully it'll,
If we ever get any money, we can utilize a portion of that money to pay this
to
salary.
pay the person.
we should be
Okay.
getting Transocean money fairly soon, but the BP money is, a judge ruled last week on the amount he thought was damaged per gallon, or barrel or whatever. But that's still,
So pot 2 and 3 are still held up in the legal
well,
federal.
and part of part 1, as far as BP money is concerned, yeah.
Okay.
It's just Transocean that went ahead and settled and put some in the bank.
Oh, no, I'm all in favor of hiring somebody. I just thought that was an interesting question.
We'll probably have more than one before we, but it's,
If I couldn't answer it, I said, well.
it's one of
We have
those.
a motion and a second on the floor. Any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, just to be sure, these are the the reports, the rankings each of you submitted to us, and we'll provide those to the clerk for part of the record.
No, so if we can't, let me ask this question, procedure. If a negotiation isn't able to be made with Mr. Williams, what will we do? Will we go to number 2, or what will we do?
The other two tied for second place, so
Okay.
we will have a discussion from there and
Okay.
see what the best way to move forward would be.
Thank you.
Or take him out of the mix and re-rank those or something.
Thank you. Okay, thanks.
Next item is regarding the finance director position. With the retirement of Ms. Quimby, it left an opening as finance director. We advertised that job internally. Ms. Melissa Thompson, who is our current finance manager, was the top-ranked applicant, and we're pleased to recommend her as finance director. It's nice to see a succession plan working and to see them come along and have one of our own that we're able to move up in the organization and to better serve the organization. So we recommend that you approve Melissa Thompson as the new finance director.
So moved.
Second, and I would like to say this has worked so well in finance. We've seen how someone, finally got rid of him, but then he came back. and then Wanda, and how succession and training our people has worked. I hope that we're doing it in every department that we have.
Yeah, I want to thank Wanda, too, and, of course, Bill, and then Wanda, who trained and showed her. So, yeah, I agree. If we could have this kind of transition in each department worked out, that would be great as well.
I'm training my replacement.
Thanks, Wanda.
We have a motion and a second. Any comment from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Melissa. Or condolences, one of you.
Mr. Chairman, the next item is regarding a number of things, but primarily, go ahead.
Before we go there, you've got an item on here on the 331 corridor standards, and Commissioner Chapman, who is out of town with family today and couldn't be here, has expressed specifically he wants to be involved in any discussion on this. So when you let us know what the status is, please keep in mind he wants to be present for any discussion that pertains to this.
Certainly, fair enough. We're not asking for any action today. We just want you to know that the 331 corridor standards, we had specific direction back in the summer to bring it back to the board in January, so we're doing that. On these other items, the hearing officer, the parking, sandwich board signs, the business license registration, staff's been working through them, and we just thought it was time we bring them back to the board to let you know that of where we are in the process of each of them. So what we would like to do is just let you know that we'll be scheduling some time with you over the next 2 or 3 weeks to let you provide you more information of where we are, what work has been done, and then if any of you wish to bring them back for action as we move forward, we'd be glad to do that. But we're not asking for any action today, but we do want to just brief you on those items, and the reason we want it on the agenda is to let the public know that they're not dead. There's things we're still been working on, and we will bring them back at your recommended time for further consideration.
I think they all should be brought back up for us to discuss as a board. It's one thing for y'all to come to each of us and, but we need to sit here and discuss it among ourselves. So I think they all need to be brought back, and some of them, faster than others. I think the hearing officer for various boards, I'd like to see that come back as soon as possible. Business license, we have kicked that can down the road for 10, 20 years now. Let's get some of these, let's vet them to the board, let's vote yes or no, up or down, and move on.
And I agree 100%. That was the reason we wanted to bring it here, is that if we want to do something with them, fine. If we don't, that's fine too.
I say start putting them on the agenda, and we'll.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're all worthy of discussion.
Okay.
And could I ask, when you come around, if you could just kind of get an idea of how we want to prioritize, like the hearing officers, probably number one for me right now.
Sure.
And kind of timeline them so that they don't all hit me at the same time.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm a new commissioner, so, so I kind of get an idea of what we want to see happen first.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. So don't need any action on that. Moving on.
Public Works.
We're asking your approval of site work at the North Walton Mosquito Control Facility, or to seek bids for that work. Our staff is pretty well wrapped up, and this is, mosquito control certainly has reserve funds sufficient to cover these costs, so we'd ask you to allow us to move forward with seeking bids for that site work.
Motion approved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Next item is request approval to seek bids for the construction of a new boat ramp and site improvements at Choctaw Beach Park Phase 1. This is something we've been working on for some time, and I think the commissioner's probably anxious to get this moving, so I'll hush
So
and let her,
moved.
I'll hush
Yes,
and let her make
so
a motion.
moved. Yes. I said, I made the motion.
You made
to
the
approve.
motion?
Yes, I did.
Second.
Yes,
You weren't
thank you.
sure on that. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any other comments or discussion?
I do want to say one thing. I think I saw Clifford here somewhere earlier. Cliff Nauer has been invaluable with me, helping me push this project. We have pushed and pushed and pushed. And Angie Biddle with the Grants Department. And so I am absolutely tickled that we're going to do something there. Especially now that we're losing the boat ramp, or, there on Choctaw, on the bay, well, at the causeway. This is going to even be more important. So, motion to approve, and we have a
We
second.
have a
Yes.
motion and a second. Any other comments? Any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Bagby.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, first item we have on the agenda is we're asking that you extend the 2014 beach vendor permits until May 22nd, 2015. We don't feel it's fair as we go through the process to the vendors that we might change the rules in the middle of the season. So what we're asking to do is give us time to finish getting the Commissioners' inputs and bring you back our recommended changes, and then whatever action you deem necessary or take. And so that would be what we'd be asking for on the first item.
I have a question. Have you met with all of us yet?
No, ma'am, we've met with all but two commissioners and the chairman. So
Okay. If you, once you get a draft or a compilation of all of our ideas.
yes, ma'am.
As soon as you get it out to us, the better that would be. So we
Yes,
can-
ma'am.
Okay. So it's going to take a motion of the board in order to extend the permit time.
Yes, sir.
So do I have a motion on that?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Just a second. Any other board comments?
Just,
Excuse me. We're taking board comments first. We'll get the public comment. Any other board comments? No. Any public comment?
just as long as we can move it as fast as we can. That's the.
State your name, spell your last name for the record, please.
Tammy Reinhardt, Reinhart. And I would like to point out that this has already caused hardship on vendors, particularly me. I can't apply for a permit again. I've satisfied everything. I can't go to work. And the vendors that are in business, yes, they'll get an extension, but they don't know what's coming in May. You can't plan a business when the commission waits till 2 weeks before permits are to be applied for to change the rules. Take that into consideration, please. Thank you. And I apologize. I really just wanted to make sure we didn't go by that.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
And item number 2 is a corollary to that. We would ask that you set a public hearing to amend the beach activities ordinance on March the 10th. So that's about 6 weeks from now. We want to give the vendors plenty of time to know that the public hearing would be on March the 10th. That would be the first meeting in the South End in March. And then any decisions you made or didn't make, that would allow us time to go back and bring back revisions to the ordinance so that you could pass that either late March or April, so that they would have some time to react to the last speaker's point before May 22nd.
I hope we get there. I think a good procedure is to meet with all the commissioners before you draft, and then get an idea of a draft, and, coming into me. I mean, that's kind of the protocol I like to see, is meeting with all the commissioners before. So when it comes up, I'll vote no.
Do you want to, I guess we could set a date so that we could advertise, and then if we needed to cancel it, we could. That's the way I see it. If we need to cancel it, it's easier to cancel it. It's easier to cancel it than it is than to schedule it.
It's better to get it on the
Yeah,
advertising, and then you're right.
We need to
We can
cancel it.
always back out.
we can
Yeah.
cancel it. So that would,
That's,
I would agree with Commissioner Jones, except I think,
Yeah.
we can always take it off the table.
Because it takes so long to get these things
advertise.
going.
Yeah.
Sorry, Bill.
My concern is this, though. This is the date of a regular board meeting down there. I know that when we had the workshop and we took written comments, and that went more than 2 hours allotted for that, this will be one for public comment, and there'll be a lot of public comment coming in on this. So I'm concerned that we have a appropriate amount of time to give it consideration, and we're not looking for something that's going to drag on and on and on. So is that really a good day to have it? Is the same day as a board meeting, or should it be a different day?
Mr. Chairman, that's y'all's call. We could have it the day before, or we could have it the day after. The problem, I think, is we hope to finish meeting with the last two commissioners in the next week to 10 days. We think it won't take us but about 10 days to draft the combined changes, if that long, and then get it to you and give you 3 to 4 weeks to review it before the public hearing, give the public time to review any recommendations, and then have the public hearing. If you want to have it later in the month, we're just concerned. We want to give the vendors, if there are any changes, again, to the last speaker's point, as much time as possible to consider or take into consideration those changes before the summer.
Can't we set it at like 3 o'clock that day?
Well, a lot of people
I'll cook
work,
supper.
though.
Yeah.
But see, they're working. How about March the 12th, which is a Thursday? Like, we could do again a 4 to 6, like we do, or 5 to 7. I hear some grumbling from. Oh, that's
Planning
right.
Commission meeting that evening.
We could do it the following week if
Then
that
March
would.
the 16th, which would be
Keep
a
on pushing
Monday
it, you keep
night.
on pushing it further out.
Well, what we can do is we can
Stephen.
start it on the 10th.
Yeah.
And if it needs more time, we'll
Move it to.
move it to the next time for it. So,
Good
okay,
idea.
we'll put it on for
Yeah, that's a good idea. I like that.
March the 10th, 3 o'clock, and then if it takes more time, we'll make sure that the people's voices are heard.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you,
We
Mr.
need a
Chairman.
motion for that?
Yes, ma'am.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion by the board? Any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Nay.
opposed?
Nay.
1 nay.
Item number 3, Mr. Chairman, is request to approve $75,000 to move $75,000 from the emerging markets air carrier recruitment funds for use in promoting a co-op for Silver Airlines. Silver Airlines recently announced that they will be flying beginning March 19th, 2 flights a day to Orlando out of Panama City and 1 flight a day to Tampa, with their initial price being $89 per flight. And so we think that is a great thing. It will be same number of seats that United will be flying between Panama City and Houston Bush International. And so they've asked for the same consideration. This would be $75,000 Panama City Beach. TDC is also putting in $75,000, and then the airport is putting in some unknown to work together to promote this service to this area.
Will this be a payment to the airline, or will this be by the TDCs using their money to advertise that the airline?
This will be advertising. So it may be a payment to the airport, who collects everybody's money and then buys the ads or buys the marketing
Yeah,
materials.
it does not go directly to the airlines, because I checked with Parker McClellan, director over there, and he said, no, it does not go. It goes to the airport, who uses it in their, with their marketing firm to market, and we kind of have a joint agreement that we will market together.
Okay.
It's a good, I think it's a good deal. Orlando, Tampa,
Yes.
could be a nice addition, so I vote, I move to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second.
Yeah, those people get tired of Disney World. They want to come up here,
Any further board comments? Any public comments? Come on up. Name, spell your last name.
Dovies, D-O-V-E-S, for the record, Bob Dovies. I think this is a good proposition. I only have one question. When we spend our Walton County funds into these entities that are outside Walton County, how do we document a return of business dollars? How do we get a return of investment? How do you document that? Because, you know, it could be a great deal, but how do we know?
Jim, you want to answer that?
Yes, hey, Bob. How you doing? This is an initial investment. What we'll do is we'll monitor the amount of traffic coming in. We get a report, or Commissioner Meadows, as your representative on the airport board over there, gets a report monthly on the number of traffic. So we'll be able to track how many people are actually enplaning and deplaning on Silver Airways, not just Delta, United, and Southwest. And so we'll know that we either have a good deal, and really, I don't want to minimize $75,000, but this is seed money. This is just like investing in any startup. We're taking a risk. We're going to see, and most of the time it works out. It worked out great with Southwest in Okaloosa. It didn't work out so well with Vision, but if you want to grow a business, you've got to put some money in up front to capitalize that and to promote that service. And so that's. But we do monitor monthly the performance of both airports, but primarily Panama City Beach.
Is there any way of asking passengers, or any way they track, okay, you're flying into to this airport, where are you staying? Are you staying in Bay County or Walton County, Okaloosa County? Is there any way, do they do surveys or anything to let us know?
Yeah, we can get you those metrics, because they do. I tell you what, the airport is serving this area tremendously. That's, and they know that, and so a lot of people flying in are, coming from there to here. In fact, all the spaces that they have allocated for yearly rentals, and in other words, you can fly from Atlanta and leave your car down here and rent a space permanently for the year and use that car and go home. All those spaces are rented by Walton County residents here that have two houses that are coming down here, getting in their car and going home. So it's a huge number, but we'll get those numbers. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Miller.
Good morning, everything. Art Miller, M-I-L-L-E-R. Mr. Chairman, as a member of the TDC board, I'd like to raise an issue that while this has just come up recently, Silver, and I'm delighted, and I'd certainly favor allocating $75,000 for it. This issue has not come before the TDC board. As a courtesy, I think we ought to discuss it first as a TDC board, make our recommendation before doing this. And I realize time is of the essence here. We can't wait a month or two to make a decision. But I think if the TDC board is involved in it, I can't speak for them, but my sense is that they would approve it. I just think as a courtesy, it ought to go before the TDC board before you all approve it.
One thing, Art, is when we allocated this umbrella pot of money, one of the points that was made was we may not have time to take it to the TDC board because the TDC board meets every other month. And so under that umbrella, this is one of those expenditures of that money. So it was kind of voted on and said, if there's an airline that they're looking at, we will use part of that $500,000, I think, to help out. So that's why it didn't hit the board this previous time, because we didn't know about it. But
doesn't it also?
But I think it would. It would if it was timely enough. But these things are. They call us up, say we're announcing it. Right. We need the money 2 weeks from now, and that's the reason. It wasn't to avoid taking it to the board.
Well, to me, the TDC board has made their recommendation of how much in their budget to spend on this kind of thing, and it's so you have actually allocated that money to you, and it's just coming to us to say, let's tweak it a little. Let's put it in this direction.
Well, this airline's come up.
Yeah,
this is how we want it. So I think at the next meeting we could discuss this for sure.
Just to reinforce both commissioners' points, the TDC board did approve the $500,000, and so and the board approved the $500,000. But when these things come up, we get a call and it's like, hey, this airline wants to come here. Are y'all in or out? For Panama City Beach, it's real easy because my counterpart over there calls the chair of his board, and it's approved. I have to bring it to you, to bring it to the TDC, just, the timeliness of it isn't there, particularly since the TDC meets every two months. But we are going to, share with them that we've done this. They're looking at another airline, I'll be honest with you. We can't disclose, but it will be a significantly bigger chunk of that 500,000 if they get that. And if there happens to be a TDC meeting, we'll take it to TDC. But if there's not, we have to get approval for expenditure of those type of funds before they can really announce.
One thing you might do is send a courtesy email, just letting them know that this is coming up. That we have it's time sensitive, and although we can't have a discussion or have a vote, we're moving forward with it. So I think communication would solve this. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I might just add one comment about the previous gentleman. I've talked to people who are in very senior positions in Rosemary Beach, and they will talk at great length about how Southwest has impacted their business. So to the point about does it make a difference, yes, it definitely does make a difference to tourism in Walton County as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment on this issue? Okay, we have a motion, a second pending. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, just a couple of quick updates. We are currently conducting the parking ticket class down at the TDC. We have sheriff's representative, we have street side code enforcement, and we have our beach code enforcement. This is part of the overall parking solution, is to certify the code enforcement officers to write real parking tickets, not just warnings or whatever that actually get tracked and people have to pay. And if you don't pay and you get stopped in Georgia, it pops up on the officer's screen there. So hopefully we won't have to use it, but we felt that it needed to be and brought it to y'all to get that tool in our toolkit to address the parking problems down in the south end of the county.
Question, Jim,
Yes, ma'am.
is that all code officers? Is that TDC and
That's all our
county?
code officers. Street side, I believe they sent one. Wayne can probably, yes, they sent one.
Okay.
And then to Commissioner Jones's point, just to give you a heads up and to give the TDC a heads up, we'll take this to them next week and then we'll bring it to you at the next meeting. But we had an opportunity pop up yesterday, valued at about $225,000 for publicity on the Golf Channel, as promoting this as a golf destination between Sandestin and St. Joe and of course the View, Santa Rosa. So we will be bringing back to you that $225,000 value would cost us $40,000. So we'll figure out where we need to pull it from the reserves or whatever. But great opportunity to promote this area again.
So you'll bring that to the TDC board?
We'll bring that to the TDC and then we'll bring it back to y'all at the next meeting.
I have a question, and
Yes, sir.
it involves both you and Mr. Davis. What's the status on the cover letter for the easements going out?
Commissioner, I have a small draft that I'm trying, or let me rephrase. I have a large draft that I'm trying to get down to a smaller letter, and I'll be sharing it with Larry here in the next couple of days.
Okay. Now, we have, am I correct, we have on our website the details of what's involved in this as well? So, I don't want to get carried away that we throw everything into a letter when we can refer people to a website.
And that's my goal now. It's my actual goal to get it down to a page.
Okay.
And I think we can do that with that
Any
website.
estimated time? I don't want to see this thing get belabored.
No, I hope to have it to you guys by the next meeting.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And, I'm sorry, yes,
Go
ma'am.
ahead.
Just to give you a heads up, we heard from the Title Research Company, their estimate, of course, I'm sure they safely gave themselves enough time, is the middle of March before they have all the titles researched again that were in question and finished. So we don't really see the letter going out until the middle of March.
I don't want to see it get lost.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. A couple of months back, when you brought the news about Brad Tickle, you said you were going to
Yes,
talk
ma'am.
with him.
Yes, ma'am.
What is that status?
His last day will be March 31st. We have a draft RFP that we are taking to the TDC to do a request for services for a coastal consultant. And we will hopefully bring that back to you at the next meeting if the TDC approves it as currently drafted, and then we will put it out on the street.
Very sad. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Any other comment? Thank you, Jim.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Davis.
Good afternoon, or good morning, Commissioners. The first item I have is a request to approve change order number 1 on the Northwest Florida Commerce Park at Mossy Head to compensate the contractor for the difference in the cost of a public construction bond that was inadvertently left off when he bid on the addendum. And this, I put it in the form of a change order because we'd already approved the contract.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners. The next item is a request to authorize Neighbors Gibble and Nickerson, who has represented the county in the past, to file an appeal of the Department of Juvenile Justice's final orders dated January 9, 2015. This case has had a long and tortured history, but essentially what happened is we have argued all along that we have overpaid the Department of Juvenile Justice. We actually got a circuit court order and then an appeal that affirmed our belief. The Department of Juvenile Justice was in order to enter final administrative agency orders that would recognize that they owed us money. We even had a stipulation in place about the amount of money that was owed. When they entered their final administrative orders, they changed the amount that we had stipulated to, and in fact, we owe them money under their proposed order. So we're asking for permission to appeal that order to the District Court of Appeal.
Let's send Stan over there.
Yeah.
Can you take Stan with you?
I think I will, Commissioner.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
We might could even make some money on him. Let's say for a small nominal fee.
Exactly.
What's the wishes of the board?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? Any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners.
That's the last on yours?
Yes, sir. The third item we had removed.
It's been removed, okay. Commissioner Meadows.
Yes, I have a couple items. We are looking at doing some improvements out at Driftwood Park because we've got the land, and we've got some recreation plat fees. So it is in Sarah's district, but
I don't
you
have
know,
the money.
it's kind of all, yeah, it's all in one. So, you know, it serves everybody. So we're not worried about that. The first request is to approve $3,000 from the recreation plat fee for a basketball. It's actually baseball backstop, not basketball. It's a baseball backstop at Driftwood Park. And I believe that there's some excess money left over in an old account or something. So whatever the funding is left over, we just need $3,000 out of that account. And also to direct Mark, Driftwood Park wants some other improvements. And so like before, they have agreed to cost share with us. And so we need some kind of a cost sharing agreement between us and Driftwood 1 and 2 because we're all going to participate in the funding of some tennis courts, some racquetball courts, and what they call a pickleball court. For those who don't know what a pickleball court is, which I was one of them, it is something that's grown real popular among seniors, and it's similar to badminton, but and played on smaller courts. But anyway, we're going to put some of those out there. So that funding will come at a later time, so I'll ask y'all about that. But I would like to move that we approve $3,000 from the District 5 recreation plat fees to go ahead and buy the backstop and get it installed before season.
Okay, but that would be in case there is money left over in the account that we would use that first instead of all of your district funds.
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
Motion, do we have a second?
I'll second the motion, and there again, I thank Cindy for this. Yeah, I mean, that's what we're up here to do, is to cooperate together. At one time, that park has been in your district,
Right.
Cia's district, and now in my district. So
Right.
I appreciate the cooperation.
Well, you know, we like to see these recreation facilities go in. So, and also Mark would go with that. Okay, the second request I have is, in addition to this,
Vote on that one first?
I'm
Yep.
sorry. Okay.
You're seconding it? Okay, with motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The second request is along that same line. We can apply for a federal land and water conservation grant that will assist with some of the recreation facilities in Driftwood Park. And so we would like to request permission from the board to go ahead and apply for that grant.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. What aspect is the grant covering on that, do you know?
It covers recreation infrastructure. Like it'll cover tennis courts and walkways and bike paths and all that kind of thing. So
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or question? Any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I do have a question. If I don't see Brad in the room, maybe Wilbur can answer the question. I was out there yesterday, going through Driftwood, checking on things, and I noticed there in the park, all of a sudden, there are two huge canvas tents over the children's. I had never. They weren't out there, you know. So,
I think they came during Cecilia's term.
I guess I.
The big shade.
Well, they were sagging. I guess that's why I noticed them, because they looked like a structure until yesterday, and one of them is kind of sagging. And Larry was with me, and it's like, what is that? That's kind of listing to port. So, you know.
Well, it kind of it's an undulating top, but it's supposed to be fixed.
Yeah.
But it has some different undulations, and it's not just a flat top.
Yeah.
But we'll get
But it
Brad.
was interesting,
Get Brad. To
Brad,
go
just
out
to
there
check on it and make sure that it's holding up
Secure.
like it should, because it seemed a little deflated.
Well, and it's probably been out there
I don't know why I've never noticed it.
a while.
It could have bit me.
Was it put in?
It's been there a while.
It's over the playground. Those
Oh, yeah,
Top.
it was there.
Just never noticed it,
Yeah, we
yeah.
put it in, but it's a strange design, so I'm not sure if it's waterlogged or if it's
Yeah.
just like that, so.
It's funny, you go by things
Item.
and never notice them. Yeah.
Okay. Third item was to, we tried to put a sidewalk on South Holiday Road, and we worked on it for, 6 months to a year, and the cost of that was going to be $450,000 because of the removal of utilities, et cetera, et cetera. We could not get that done. We didn't have sidewalk funds in that amount. So I would like to de-obligate $29,205 in the sidewalk fund currently earmarked for South Holiday Road and San Juan sidewalk. We've already finished San Juan, and obligate $12,320 to the sidewalk and crosswalk at 395 and Seagrove Village Road.
Okay.
And that's a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments, questions, discussion? Any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
I
And
would
the,
ask, though,
ahead.
I mean, this is so important. Cindy's worked on it, I've worked on it, and grants, anything we can do to get this money up to do this. I mean, we need help.
yeah, it's important, it's vital, and we've got to figure out a way to get it done, but, it just, there wasn't enough sidewalk funds to get it done. So the fourth item I have is Debbie Hurd and Marcia Anderson are on the Coastal Dune Lake Advisory Board. They've been on there, and they're serving quite well. They're up for reappointment, so I would move that we reappoint Debbie Hurd and Marcia Anderson to the Coastal Dune Lake Advisory Board.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion or comments? Any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Anything else, Commissioner?
That's all.
Okay. Commissioner Commander.
Yes, as some of you are aware, we had a consortium meeting last week in Tallahassee. It was very productive. I had brought the agenda with me, but I guess I didn't. I headed out to come, but we accomplished it. We're beginning to really make strides. We hired a firm. You have to have a plan to plan your plan. Remember, we're working with the federal government. So we have to hire a firm that is going to give us a plan on how we plan our plan. We finally voted on that, and we're moving forward. Hopefully at some point, as I said, the money will be available. But there was an opportunity. We had a conference call of the executive board. I was reappointed to the executive board, and I'm very pleased with that, to represent Walton County on the executive board. But about 2 years ago, commissioners from Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas came together in Mobile and formed a caucus called the Gulf States Caucus. So if an event happens again, whether it's an oil spill or a hurricane or whatever, we can all work together instead of everybody working in different directions. They met last year in 2014 in Mobile. I wasn't able to attend that one. I did attend the one in Mobile. And this year, because Grover Robinson is chairman of the caucus, and the caucus is formed under NACO, the Gulf States Caucus will be held in Florida. Well, they kind of suggested 3 places: Walton County, Monroe County, which is Key West, and somebody suggested Bay County. Well, I will admit I unabashedly bribed everybody at the meeting by baking cookies.
I wasn't there when she said that.
That said, enjoy these sand tart cookies, as they remind you of the white sugary sands of Walton County. They have white powdered sugar on them. Put them on because the consortium made the decision of where to start first. And thanks to Mr. Bagby and his staff, they gave me little tote bags. So we gave them to all the commissioners, and we have won. We're top choice for bringing the caucus here to Walton County. Jim and admin and I are in negotiations now to find a cheaper hotel rooms, because they will be coming from Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, as well as some of the consortium people in Florida, of course, will come because it's in Florida. We're trying to find a meeting place, audio equipment, and then we will have to provide them lunch on that Friday that they're here. But we're hoping that they will spend the weekend here. But I wanted to share with y'all, they actually said I need to be put on TDC payroll because I was pretty good at pleading our case. So
I would like to note, though, that I think that this has got some shells in it.
It's got some shells. Well, But I'm pleased to say we're in negotiations with that, just nailing it down. So in October the 9th, the meeting is in October the 9th. So we'll have it.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other?
No, sir.
Mr. Jones.
Yeah, I'd like to have a discussion on the village mixed-use district, not asking us to vote on anything, but I know, Wayne, could you come up? I know you've told us about a workshop that we've asked you to have, and what I really would like to see is after this workshop, bring us some recommendations back. Being a native of Walton County, I don't feel like it was ever intended that 30A be an extension of Panama City Beach, and I want to do something in a hurry to, I know we've got other motels looking, and with the traffic being backed up from 331, I know this is Commissioner Meadows' district, but I know she won't mind me since I have grandkids and family down there. So, but if you just tell us a little bit about the workshop and then what your plans are. And
yes, ma'am. We're going to have a workshop on Thursday, I believe at 2:00 at the South Walton Annex, to discuss the initial amendment to village mixed use, dealt with acreage and some other things like that. However, it's just over the past several weeks, I know it's been brought to my attention by many people and so forth that they may feel like that the village mixed use, the current language is not meeting the original intent of the village mixed use that was adopted many years ago. And so there has been some modifications to that over the years. And so it may be something that we want to look at and look at the original intent and ensure that we are meeting that objective. And I'm sure at the workshop we'll get a lot of comments. We'll be glad to provide those to the commission also as far as the comments we get. But we will definitely bring back all those comments, and we'll meet as a staff after that workshop and bring back a proposal to the board and then go over that with each one of you to make sure that we are indeed trying to satisfy the intent.
And sooner than later.
Yes, ma'am.
Which kind of leads into, the EAR amendments that are going to be due forthcoming. Is a discussion that we could go ahead and start looking at these because it's so far out in the future and it takes us so long to get through these that we go ahead and authorize planning to start the EAR amendment process.
Yeah.
And, we could put that on a future agenda since it's not on here today, but just as a follow-up to that.
Yes, ma'am.
is to go through, because there are a lot of other issues that need to be addressed in those codes, I think.
Yes, ma'am, we do. As with any kind of plan or ordinance, over time, there's modifications made to it, and eventually those modifications may conflict with one another, and I think the EAR amendment process would be a good opportunity for us to make sure that we get everything back in sync again and make sure that we are meeting the goals and objectives that the commission wishes and the public wishes as far as the comp plan and the land development code.
Well, and conditions have changed drastically, over the last 3 or 4 years, so these new conditions are going to...
Put your microphone on.
Conditions have changed over the last, 3 or 4 years, so, we need to do some updates to accommodate for the changes.
And I'm assuming we're never
You'll
going
bring
to
that
get
back
the zoning
to future agenda?
Yes, sir, we will.
Thank you.
in my lifetime.
Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jones, anything else?
That's all.
Thank you. I've got one item for the request and one just an information update. But the first thing is, in Mossy Head, we've got an area by the school that uses a pig trail to get back and forth to the Mossy Head Park that we have out there. It's a small park, but it has got a real need to get some kind of sidewalk or paving to get from the school and for people to use it for walking purposes off of 1087 so that they've got areas that they can walk and not be directly onto either 90 or on 1087. So there's an area that's being circled now on the screen, and that's kind of a pig trail there. I'd like to get up to $12,000 of sidewalk funds approved to use to help make that a formal thing so that not only the kids, but anybody else that wants to use it as a walking trail can get to and from the Mossy Head Park without having to walk on 90 with all the traffic that's there.
So, I'm sorry, so the building on the right-hand side, what is that?
You've got the park in there. You've got the park and the ambulance facility there. But to the north of it, you have the school. But to come back over to the side, they're taking kids down to the 90 and sometimes going there, or sometimes using the pig trail. I'd like to at least get the pig trail either paved or concreted so that we can get a safety way for them to get from one place to the other, and have a facility for adults, other people to use for walking purposes and enjoyment.
And we own the land?
Yes, we do.
How long?
Wilmer, 1,000 feet.
I so move. And just as a side note, another, in your district, the high school, the middle school, high school, and I know I've been talking to Public Works about a safety issue there, and maybe we can look at sidewalks for the future.
And the high school is in the city limits.
Okay.
So that's an issue for that, where this is in the county and this is county-owned land.
Okay, I so move.
So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion. Any further discussion? Any public comment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Quick update. We are still moving forward with the package distribution facility for the Mossy Head Industrial Park. We're looking very strong. We hope to have a formal word on it probably around April 1st. And we're hanging in there. And I will say this, that we've been put in a strong position because of the combined efforts of not only Mr. Larry Jones, but our staff who have been responsive to questions, responsive to inquiries, and participating in all the things that need to get done so we can answer questions. So hopefully in the first meeting in April or prior, we'll have some kind of announcement we can make that says that we've got a nice another addition to out there.
Amen.
That's all.
Bill, can I ask you a question? We're going to set a public hearing to bring forward funding from land sales at Mossy Head Industrial Park into the 2015 budget. Are those going to go into a Mossy Head Park account, or how are we going to deal with this? We're up under budget amendment resolutions and transfers, item 3.1.B. I think it was under consent agenda.
Now remember, Mossy Head Park is different than Mossy Head Industrial Park.
Yeah, this is Mossy Head Industrial Park, yeah. I'm just wondering, we're going to have a public hearing to bring forward funding from the land sales at Mossy Head into the budget. Is it going to go into the general fund, or is it going to go?
I'm sorry.
It'll go into the Mossy Head Fund to pay for improvements, the infrastructure improvements that is above and beyond what the state appropriation
Okay.
is paying for.
Okay, so it will be money that will go into an account called Mossy Head Industrial Park in the
Improvements
next
for
budget.
infrastructure.
Okay. That's what I wanted to.
Time for public comments. Seeing none, we're going to take a 15-minute break, and then we'll resume with our planning and development
Theriak was
services.
getting up. Hold it.
I'm sorry, Mr. Theriak, I didn't see your hand waving.
Well, he's
And
so
for you,
little,
sir,
know.
and for you, sir, as I have people come up and state their name, you do need to spell your name for the record.
Yes, sir. David Theriak, Theriaquue. If I can spell it, then it must be me. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak this morning. If I may approach to hand out a document, Mr. Chair?
Okay, is this for an item that's on the agenda still to come?
No, this is not. This is for public comment on something that's not on the agenda.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm supposed to read that?
Nope.
Jeez, yeah. My arms aren't long enough. I'm sorry, sir.
You won't have to read the whole thing. I'll give you a quick update on what this is and what our ask is. This is a proposed tweak to the Coastal Center Land Development Code language. If you all recall, I represent Bob Goldsby. He owns property on Mac Bayou Road, 1.75 acres, and about 2 years ago he had asked for a small-scale plan amendment to change the land use designation for a self-service storage facility. The board denied the land use amendment, and it's my understanding had asked staff and Mr. Goldsby and Mr. Jenkins to see if they could come up with a solution short of a plan amendment to allow the self-service storage facility. So I have drafted a proposed tweak to Coastal Center, provided it to Wayne Dyes, also to Mark Davis. Our ask is that you all allow staff to advertise the public hearing process to consider the ordinance to see if you all would be willing to adopt it. I believe Mr. Dyes supports that request. And in a nutshell, what I've done is created a conditional use for self-storage facilities with very restrictive criteria, so it doesn't open the door to all property in Coastal Center for self-service storage facilities. So what our ask is on behalf of Mr. Goldsby is that you authorize your planning staff to initiate the public hearing process to consider the tweak to Coastal Center. And
I thought Goldsby Road, I thought that was general commercial is what they were asking for, not Coastal Center.
it's not Goldsby. It's on Mac Bayou. It's a different piece of property. Go ahead.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, just for a little extra background, as you may recall, under the former commission, this came up with an issue. The individual wanted to have a mini warehouse. I don't think there is much opposition, but the ordinance did not allow that in that district. At that time, the board, and I think Commissioner Pridgeon asked us to look at some alternatives that may be palatable to allow a mini warehouse in that particular area. And I think this is that result of that sort of tweaking. And so that was something that was on the former commission. And again, the issue wasn't that they didn't want it. I think it just was not allowed in the land development code. So
I think there was some opposition to it because I remember the neighbors came out and said that they didn't want many stores. I'm totally not in favor of changing a land use to allow something for one particular person ask. I think it would affect all of Coastal Center, although you've got it tweaked down to, exactly your property. I'm just not in favor of us changing land use categories for one particular property. So that would be my take on it. I would not be in favor of this.
Well, do we want to set a hearing and discuss it, or is that what you're asking?
Yes, ma'am.
I leave that to Wayne.
Well, so let me ask you, since it wasn't on the agenda, and I understand this is from public comment, would we not suggest that Wayne bring back to us a recommendation whether to bring it forward or not? So Wayne, you would take this, and then perhaps the next meeting or the one after that, come back with an argument for or against, and
Okay.
at which time then we can consider what we want to do or don't do.
We'll be glad to do that. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir, Mr. Dobies.
Thank you.
I believe this was on the agenda, but it addresses Mr. Theriak's issue. As I recall, you decided to have planning or somebody look at the original intent of all of our codes that are in that they've been so much tweaked over the years, they lost the individual intent, and that's what I was here almost beginning to happen again.
Thank you. Anyone else? Take a 15-minute recess. Be back at 10:30.
Chairman needs your attention, ladies. Poor Cindy Luca.
Yes, I'm going to mention to you that Commissioner Chapman specifically has to be present. And you can follow along with. So we're going to propose that we move these to the last meeting in February.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Dice, you're up next, and there are some items on there, a couple items that Commissioner Chapman has specifically requested to be at the discussion aspect of it when it's brought up, so I'm going to ask you to consider moving them, and that's the fees resolution for small-scale extraction mining, and then the mining ordinance itself. So can you address that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We are requesting that we continue as you mentioned, the number one under the Planning and Development Services, the planning fee resolution for small-scale extraction mining, and also continue the actual mining ordinance under legislative item number 3 until the last meeting in February, which is February 24, 2015.
Do we have a motion?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the next item is a request to appoint Mark Hart as the new member of the SHIP program, Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, to fill the vacancy of representative of employers.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, the next item is number 3, a request to schedule and advertise for a public workshop regarding the outdoor events ordinance. And I believe we had 2 dates we had already sort of looked at. Carrie, do you have those 2 dates? And I think the 2 dates were February 4th and February 11th that were sort of where we're looking at. Just need to get some clarification on which one works better for the board.
Okay. What are you asking me now? Say that again.
February 4th or the 11th
For what?
for the outdoor events workshop.
What time would that be?
February. Where's December?
5 p.m.
I'm going to be out of town on the conference February 4th. I would vote for the 11th.
Yeah, I would too. I have
Okay.
something for it.
Works for me.
So the 11th at 5 p.m. at the South Walton Annex.
And you have a draft of that, floating around?
Yes, ma'am. We can get you one this afternoon.
I have a conflict on that date, but I'll try to make it to it.
I have to go to the dentist. I may be in pain, but I'll be there.
That's 4 p.m.
I believe we said 5 p.m., but if we have
Well,
the date's up to you, up to the
I have
board.
a scheduled all-day deposition on a matter that the board's involved in,
Okay.
so if I make it, fine, and if I don't,
You'll be out of there.
the vice chairman will be there.
You'll be out of there.
Okay.
Commissioner, you asked about a draft. There is a draft. There's going to be a couple of small changes I'll get with planning that I'm going to make again. So we'll have you a draft by the end of the week.
Does it
Make
need to
sure.
be posted on the website so
Yeah.
that, people,
Just a couple of small things.
okay, so that people can understand what's,
Okay. We can put it on the website as well, and we can work with Lou.
So is there a motion and a second for the 11th?
yeah,
Okay.
I think.
Second.
Okay. The motion, we have a second. Any further discussion with the board? Any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I'll take the next 2 items actually regarding the reappointment of the code enforcement board members. Victor Bowman, Richard Folks, and Dave Lovell are all current members to be reappointed if you so chose, and it's We have one vacant slot that Mr. Gordon Porter has asked to be considered for as a realtor slot. Considering that we're looking at hearing officers, and this may be one place we look at that, you may want to make these reappointments for a 90 or 120-day time frame so that we'll be better poised to move that process forward if we so chose. So that would be our recommendation on these reappointments, to reappoint the three that are currently serving and Mr. Porter as the realtor representative, and make them for probably 120 days, and then we could redress it.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any public comment?
I will go along as long as this does come back to us in 100.
Ma'am.
Okay.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
And I may get clarification from Mr. Davis, but if in the meantime we decide to move to the hearing officer for that board, that's not an issue.
That's not an issue.
Yeah, so we have it.
As long as we have a limit on the length of time they're appointed, that's correct.
Okay. Next item is regarding scheduling a public hearing to consider the redesign of Chateau 30A, which is now more commonly known as the Hampton Inn on 30A. The project has gone through the Planning Commission, and we were to wait till that to make sure they were complete. The Planning Commission had completed their process for this meeting to set a time and date for a meeting to consider this for the Board of County Commissioners. Due to the size of the crowd was at that meeting, staff recommends that we move this to Seascape, and we hold the meeting at 4 p.m. on Thursday, March the 5th. I believe that's Commissioner Jones' birthday.
I just said my birthday.
Happy-
Great way to spend the birthday.
Happy birthday.
At what time? 5 or
4?
So moved. So Seascape, 4 o'clock.
Motion and a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? Any public comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And by the way, for the public, I will be asking people as they arrive to sign a sheet to speak, so that we're going to take them in the order that are on the sign-up sheet. Some people don't want to speak, but I at least want to get those that have the real burning issues to want to get up and speak, get them done first. We will allow public comment at the end. I intend at 6 o'clock to call a halt to that. If it needs to continue it another time, we will. But I want you to know that when you get there, if you think you'd like to speak, please do the sign-up sheet, and I'll take it down one after the other on that. Thank
This
you.
is a quasi-judicial hearing.
So it can go on. But what I'm
Right,
saying is
okay.
at 6 o'clock, we'll call a halt to it. If it's done, fine, we can deal with it then. If not, we'll continue it to another time. But these going on till midnight hearings that we've had in the past are crazy.
I think we should go to 7. With that,
Are you going to bring supper?
I'll move that, and Sarah to provide the dinner.
Wait a minute.
I move that we hold it
We'll-
for 4 and
We'll work out whether it's 6 or 7 at that time, but
Because
I
I
don't
think
have
as
a
long as
problem.
everybody's there, in 3 hours, we may be able to do it.
I think the Planning Commission was about
anyhow-
3 or...
Anyhow, there'll be a time limit on it, whether it's 6 or 7, probably 7, but I want people to know that I'll expect them, if they want to speak, to come hit the sign-up sheet, because that's the order we're going to take them in. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, next two items are legislative items. The first one is a text amendment to the general commercial land use category, specifically policy 1-1.4.3. I'll ask Tim Brown to come up and give just a brief overview of what this amendment's about.
Good morning, Tim Brown with Planning and Development. This is an adoption hearing. This was previously transmitted to the state. It came back with no comments. It's an exception to the locational criteria for the general commercial land use on Goldsby Road. Joe, it's an exception to the locational criteria for the general commercial land use on Goldsby Road.
And we've talked about this. Can I say something? We've talked about this before, and I think that, I think it includes them setting aside a certain amount of property adjacent to any residential. I just want to make sure that 1.5 acre or whatever it is, it's located adjacent to the residential. In other words, you could provide 1.5 acre on the side of your property and still not meet the intent of that ordinance. You see what I mean?
Yes.
So how would we word it so that it's definitely has to be I think
Well, it says the buffer is to be provided adjacent to existing or allowed residential use.
Okay.
So if it's existing or allowed,
okay,
it's going to have to be provided.
okay, okay. That's good.
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion by the board? Any public comment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Chairman, the last item is the recreational plat fee amendment. As you may recall, based on direction from the board, it was moved from 5% to 6%. This is an amendment to the Land Development Code that reflects that change. Ms. Noyes is here also. She drafted this, if you have any questions.
And this would just be the first hearing, so all we'd really need to do today is for the board to approve it and set the second hearing. We could have that hearing at the next board meeting in 2 weeks for final adoption.
Okay.
And you may remember, I think we passed the comprehensive plan amendment. We were waiting for DEO's approval. We have that. The comprehensive plan's final, so now we just have to amend the land development code.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion by the board?
Do we need to set a hearing date?
Yes, ma'am, and I would suggest the hearing, no, February 10th.
That's right, we're still in January.
Motion and second. Any public comment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Chairman, that's all we have.
Okay, thank you. We're going to need a motion to go into executive session for a published executive session.
Do we,
Need a motion to go into executive session.
so moved.